Hi, I'm Benton Stokes.
And I'm Elane O'Rourke.
And this is Cocktail Theology. So we're talking about the fact that I'm wearing a baseball hat today, and how can I wear a baseball hat in the middle of the summer?
Okay, wait. You are not wearing a baseball hat.
Okay, it's a cap.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Those are very different things.
Well, it's a cap.
It's a hat, it's a cap.
Yeah, whichever. It's a Cedar Point souvenir baseball cap.
Right, which is lovely. I mean, the fact it's Cedar Point. But anyway, we were talking about putting on a hat because you don't want to do your hair thing, which many people do. But it is one of those things that I don't get at all. Because if I want to wear a hat, in fact, that's it. If I'm wearing a hat, I am putting it on. I am throwing down with the fashion.
I haven't seen you in a baseball cap many times.
I
think I've seen you once or twice. But I mean, I like you in a baseball cap.
Oh, that's very sweet.
I do.
Well, it's because you like me.
Well, I do. I have seen you in a hat on an occasion.
I do love wearing hats.
I think you wore a hat to Messiah when we saw the Messiah.
I love wearing hats. I love hats.
I love hats.
I could wear hats all the time. I used to. Well, I still. Actually, I have actually quite a few hats. Come to think of it.
You should bust out the hats. Well, maybe not when it's 100 degrees outside, but
see, that's the problem. I mean, I have a couple of hats that I can wear at night, or not at night, but during hot weather. I have a couple of those. But what we were talking about, people, was besides the sartorial expression of hats and caps, but it doesn't matter. It has nothing to do with what we're supposed to be talking about right now.
But this is our small talk time, so you go ahead. You just bust it out.
So basically, we were talking about caps, and I was saying to him, he had put on a cap because he was not feeling as sartorially fabulous as he might otherwise feel. And my response was, and you knew you were coming here, where you were adored and loved and found just adorable no matter what you do. And he said,
Basically,
Which, depending upon his mood, is either a shut up, Elane, or yeah, whatever you say, or oh, look over there.
Right, it's probably more like look over there. Love is a dirty word. Love is a dirty word. Love, when all the edges blur. Keep on believing. Love is the risk you take. Love, the choice you're afraid to make. Can you give it till it hurts? Yeah, love is a dirty word.
What are we drinking?
Well, first of all, we are drinking Prophecy, which if you guys... I love that sentence.
I know.
We're drinking Prophecy.
We are.
If you guys haven't enjoyed Prophecy wines, they are delicious. And the one that we are having tonight is a red blend.
And it's actually one of the ones I like a lot for the price point.
It's very good.
Drinkable. Yeah.
And I love the label. As you know, I always notice the label, and it's a beautiful label.
Well, it's a Klimtish label.
What's that mean?
Klimt?
Yeah.
Pause the...
Are you verklempt?
Klimt, the kiss.
What do you mean?
Gustav Klimt.
Okay, so I was not aware of Gustav Klimt. Okay, so the Prophecy label, you have to understand, it has like this Grecian couple, like presumably a god, and what is she? She's got like a
mermaid tail-ish.
Mermaid tail thing.
Yeah.
So she's some sort of mythical creature. He's like a Greek demigod. And they're like holding hands, and he's got an arm behind her, and they're like looking at each other in the face.
Yeah.
It's a very beautiful label. But what you just said was that was very Klimt-ish. And so Gustav Klimt, apparently, I recognize the painting, but it's that sort of embrace. That's what Klimt is known for.
Exactly. Well, for that particular painting, so the painting called The Kiss, which if you don't know who Klimt is, you would know this painting. I mean, it's just...
I recognize the painting.
Everywhere.
I just didn't know his name.
Yeah, but this particular label has this kind of Art Nouveau thing going on. You know what it is, sweetie, is that they are rooted. They are vineyard gods.
They are rooted. They are. Okay, so that's not a mermaid tail. Those are like roots.
Those are roots.
It's a beautiful wine, beautiful label.
Great price point.
Great price point. So we highly recommend. Prophecy, if you're listening, we need a sponsor. There you go.
Speaking of sponsoring us, so if you like what you hear, The most important thing, the best thing you could do is to tell other people.
Yes.
Please let people know about cocktail theology. Please let them know about School for Seekers, because we actually do have a serious side that actually matters, aside from our discussion
You guys have heard
of mid-century art. The other thing that you could do, though, is go on to our Patreon site, which is www.patreon.com/cocktail theology. I'm not going to spell that because you found us. But you can support us, but most importantly, you can get both our gratitude and our swag,
Yes.
depending upon how much money you give per month. And we appreciate that. Every little bit matters.
Everything matters.
Because we pay for lights, we pay for recording, we pay for, food for our children and things like that. Anywho.
Yep.
But you can get things. You can get our mixology guide. You can get
cool.
to name a cocktail.
Yes.
Anyway, so all of that had nothing to do with what we're talking about tonight, which is love.
Love. Tonight we are talking about love. We had a conversation a while back
Oh, a long while now.
where we talked about the difference between telling someone, love you, and I love you.
Basically, I gave him holy hell on text one night. Because I said, I love you, and he wrote back, love you. I'm like, what the hell is that? Dude.
Yeah, and I had not really considered, but that pronoun makes a difference.
That I is big.
It makes a difference.
It's huge.
Yeah, it does.
So here's one of my questions about that. This is not actually what we're going to be talking about, except that it has made me think, that whole pronoun issue. And just to be clear, one more time, the difference between writing or saying love ya or love you and I love you. I love you has a particular seriousness and a particular commitment, maybe?
Yeah.
That love you doesn't.
Yeah.
Which is so fascinating. And for somebody who loves language the way that we do, that whole fact that a pronoun makes that big a difference, fascinating. So that's where this whole thing started, and you are the victims of it.
That's right.
So we started with the whole, why is love you different than I love you? And just what does it mean to love somebody? And here's what it is. Why are we so afraid of love? So as the person who leaves out pronouns when you express your affection for people, perhaps you can explain this to the rest of us.
You pronounless so-and-so. There is a certain gravitas that comes with the I, and it's interesting because I hadn't considered it
until
you harassed me. And then I started looking at it, and I was like, huh. When I say I love you, it sort of embodies like the essence of everything that is me. And that's a very esoteric way to say that.
That's okay.
It seems to be more reflective, as in, I've thought about this. I don't even really know how to
No, I mean, I think,
capture that.
I think what you're saying is exactly accurate, and that's the reason I find this so fascinating.
Yeah.
So people, as you're listening to this, if you make the distinction between love you or love you and I love you, and particularly about when you'll say it to whom and under what circumstances, please email us, write it in the comments, post it on Facebook, do something, because I find this fascinating. So let me ask you a question. Is I love you, for people who would say love you, which I've learned to do because I don't want you uncomfortable, but is I love you reserved for enamorata? Is it reserved for our lovers?
No.
And okay.
No, I don't think so. I think it is reserved for moments that have gravity. So,
okay.
if I recognize that someone that I care about needs to know that I love them, then I may say, I love you. The love you is almost more like, if they were present, I would give them a quick hug. Like, see you later, hug, and on our way. So it's almost like a text message hug, the love you is. Whereas the I love you is more deliberate more centered. Both my eyes, my heart are very centered on you right now, and I'm telling you I love you.
No, that's not right. You're saying, I love you.
Right.
That's different than I love you or I love you. Okay, so when I used to teach critical thinking,
Uh-huh.
I would talk a lot about the kinds of sentences that are completely dependent upon where you put the emphasis, right? Where you put the emphasis.
Right.
So there's a difference between I love you and I love you or I love you.
The standard default puts the emphasis on love. I love you.
Because the concern is that people won't know they are loved.
Right.
Or you want to express the love part.
Right.
It's almost a confession, right?
Yeah.
It's I love you. And the I suddenly gets really important
Yes.
in a whole different way.
If you're putting the emphasis on I suppose what you're really saying is, I know what I'm saying. I've thought about this. I feel this deeply. I mean this. I love you. As opposed to, I love you.
As opposed to liking you, hating you, and so forth.
Right. Now, when you say, I love you, that means you see the other person. I see
Yes,
you.
you.
All of you. Everything that's gorgeous and perfect and beautiful. Everything that's flawed and not perfect. I see you and I love you.
Wow. Okay, so the way you're reading that is if you say, I love you, it is subject to subject.
Yes.
Okay, so for those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, it's the difference between thinking of the other person as the one on the other side of your gaze, right? So like a tree is an object, a person can be an object, you're talking to them rather than with them. Whereas if a person is a subject, they are just as much in the conversation, just as engaged,
Yes.
just as important as you are in this.
Yes.
So when somebody says, I love you, it is treating that other person as a subject.
As a subject.
It's treating them as a whole entity
Right.
who has feelings.
Right.
And when you say, I love you, you're kind of letting go of your risk, right? Saying the I is risky. If you think about the first time somebody says, I love you to a lover, it's like there's this whole kind of, should I say it now? Should I wait? The other one hasn't said it. But if you say, I love you, the emphasis is now off of the I completely and on the other person.
True.
I think the I is a sign of commitment, and I think commitment scares the poop out of people.
No, I agree with you.
I is commitment. So why are we so afraid of that? This is where we get to the love is a dirty word part. Why are we so afraid of loving people? Or of committing to the fact that we love people?
Love asks something of us.
Yes. What does it ask?
It asks that we put the other individual's concerns, sometimes cares, above ours. It means that we think of them as we move through our decisions, that our affections and our thoughts and our intentions consider that individual. Love is entanglement. When you fall in love with someone, or when you choose to love someone, which those are different things, you become entangled with that person. That person becomes a consideration in the way you live your life, in the choices that you make, in the role you allow them to play in your own life.
Yes, absolutely.
Love is letting someone in,
Yep.
and then also sharing yourself, regardless of what that is, whether it's parent to child, friend to friend, lover to lover. It doesn't matter. It's sharing yourself with someone else. Good stuff, bad stuff, ugly stuff, beautiful stuff, all of it. It's the way that I feel about that. So putting the I there, I think you're right. I think you're exactly right. is committing yourself to that relationship. Love you without the I is more feeling. It can be very happy and smiley, and you can mean it. But it's also very in the moment.
It's affectionate.
It's affectionate, yes. So it's very in the moment. When I see my daughter, every time we separate, we hug and I say, love you. And she says, love you, Daddy. Every time. The I is there for me, and there have been plenty of times when I have used the I, but in casual interaction with my daughter, many times I won't use the I, and she doesn't either. And because we know each other so well, it's sort of implied. But it's the type of interaction, and there's a context for that.
Right.
And it feels like whenever love is used, there is a context for that, whatever that context is. I don't have that many people that I say love you to. And even fewer that I say I love you to. But there's always a context for it. And it needs to be a context that's understood, because clearly there have been, there are plenty of opportunities to misunderstand
Sure.
what that is.
Sure.
If a couple's dating and then all of a sudden the guy says, love you, and there's not a context for that, there's plenty of room for misunderstanding.
It's so easy to put this as a male-female thing, and I'm sure that there's some male-female stuff in there. I'm sure that if you were to do a survey of Americans, 300 million people, you couldn't actually survey because they would lie, because we all lie on surveys. Statistics are kind of crazy on this. But if you were to follow people around and notice when they said, I love you or none of it, my bet is that men say love you more or love ya more than women do, which culturally makes a lot of sense, because at least culturally men are more softer on commitment than women, right?
Yes.
And I don't want to go into whether that's biology but it's certainly in this culture, that's true, right? But I think that everybody does it, and we may do it differently.
Yeah.
But it's interesting to me that as you were talking about it, the language of I love you, you framed both times you mention it in terms of a lover, partner, that person, as opposed to any other kind of love. And I point that out not because it's you, but because, again, in our culture, we have conflated romantic love with love. So when we talk about love, what we often mean is either parental or romantic. And the reason I bring this up, I know you're waiting for this, it isn't just about you, but it is about the Bible.
Okay.
So I don't know if you know this, but I have expressed it as widely as I possibly can. When and if you ever get married again, and you want me to be part of it, we will have this conversation. So just letting you know right now.
Okay.
So I hate 1 Corinthians 13 for weddings. Hate it. I mean, it's lovely. And for those of you who don't know immediately what 1 Corinthians 13 is, I'm going to read you part of it. Okay. So this is Corinthians, which is a letter from the Apostle Paul to the church at Corinth. We actually think it's the second letter rather than the first letter, but that's fine. And the part that often people don't read starts out, if I speak in the tongues of mortals and of angels but do not have love, I am a noisy gong or a clanging cymbal. Then we get to the part that is often read at weddings, which makes me nuts. Love is patient. Love is kind. Love is not envious or boastful or arrogant or rude. It does not insist on its own way. It is not irritable or resentful. It does not rejoice in wrongdoing, but rejoices in the truth. It bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, endures all things. Love never ends, blah, 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 blah. The reason I hate that for weddings is because the sort of love that the Bible is talking about is about willing the good of another.
Yeah.
It's not about sex. It's not about romance. It's not about starry-eyed anything. It's about what happens when God loves us, or we truly love another person. at the moments when we are most loving another person, at those moments we are patient, at those moments we are kind, at those moments we are whatever. So if you're going by Paul's view of love as expressed to the Corinthians, and you are talking to any other person, the reality is from Paul's perspective, you're going in and out of love all the time.
Yeah.
So I hate it for weddings. Makes me nuts. Because it sets a bar that is impossible.
Right.
Right? At those moments when you're mad at your spouse, you don't love them. Well, yeah, you do. You're mad at the moment. Right? And so maybe that's not, the platonic archetype of love. But that's not about the long-term commitment. And the long-term commitment is to will the good of the other person.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So I think that part of the challenge of the love you versus I love you, like I had never used the phrase love you before we had this text conversation ever in my life.
Really?
Never. I am fairly confident. I mean, somebody may come up to me and say, no, you wrote it in a note to me. But yeah, I can't imagine myself saying it.
How casually did you use the phrase I love you?
Context matters. So I might say, I love you, expressing what love is. But other than that, yeah,
So it's not a phrase that you use? Okay. Yeah, I think the love you is way more commonly used among friends, among lovers.
So you're saying I'm not loving?
No.
I'm totally teasing. I'm giving you a hard time. Because it's so much fun.
Oh, yeah, so much fun. But even like with my daughter, when I say love you, I mean, obviously the love that we have for each other is way, way deeper than that would imply.
You're committed to your kid.
Right. But it's almost interchangeable with see you later. With her.
Right.
But only with her. Like, she's the only person that gets that every time.
Sure. But do you or other people you can pin on somebody else, say love you as a bye-bye with other people?
Yeah, I mean, I think people do that.
It's like I don't ask how are you unless I want to know how you are.
Right, but lots of people will say, hey, how you doing? How you doing?
Never.
As a hello.
Never.
Yeah, I read something today about, I don't know, it was on Instagram. It was People of the Second Chance. And he posted, when somebody asks you, how are you doing, try answering honestly. Because, the how you doing is a very casual hello. And you say, good, great, or okay, or whatever, how are you? So you sort of return it, but there's no real answer there. It's really just a greeting. And again, the context and where it sits in a conversation matters.
Right. So what's love? It is common in the Christian church in the last 20 years to make a distinction between the Greek forms of love and, whether it means affection or it means sexual attraction or whether it means commitment or whether it means this kind of brotherly, ongoing, So for me, the distinction would be, do I love you, meaning, do I want the best for you and am I willing to do something about that? And do I love you, meaning, I have a sense that I am your first line of defense. Okay? I don't use the word love to mean really anything else. I don't use it to mean affection. I don't use it to mean sex or attraction. I just don't use it that way. I don't use it to mean friendship. If I say I love you, it means I will either come to your defense and help you out, or you're stuck with me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So the pronoun is almost irrelevant if I'm using it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. I don't think most people do that. We love, big scare quotes, all kinds of things. We love pizza. We love vacation. We love summer.
So Dallas Willard made the best distinction between the love of pizza, if you will, and the love of a person.
Yeah.
And I so appreciate this. He said, to love another person is to want their good. It's to be willing to act on it and so forth.
Yes.
The love, he used chocolate cake. when I love chocolate cake, I want to devour it. That
Right.
is not wanting its good.
You're not willing the
Right?
good of the chocolate cake.
Right.
Yeah.
Love is in the trenches, love is digging ditches, love is intervention, too afraid to mention. Love is at the bedside, love is in the riptide, love is messy and it's heavy, love will heal you when you're ready. Love is in the trenches, love is
When I
digging
brought this up
ditches,
to
love
Benton
is
and said, I really want to talk about this, it had come out of my thinking about that whole pronoun thing, which I do a lot because it's me. And I was thinking about, so the songs that talk about love, what they are is they're hormones. They're your hormones talking, using the word love for attraction, for sexuality, for whatever.
Well, something
Most of the
occurred to
time.
me a while back about that. In the 50s and 60s, when love was used, it had more to do with romance. Today, when love is used in a pop song, it has more to do with sex.
See, I would put romance and sex in the same package.
Well, I mean, yes, but I'm trying to think of an example.
I know what it is.
Okay.
You're making a distinction between hearts and flowers and what you do in the dark.
Yeah, that's the distinction. So love, scare quotes again, in the 50s and 60s was more about courtship, romance, and then in the 70s, I think, probably is where it started to flip. Where
Late 60s, Summer of Love, into
yeah,
the 70s.
yeah.
Sure.
Is where love, that term started to mean more about physical intimacy, physical interaction, attraction, sex, and all of that. And now, if you say in a pop song, I want your love, you're not talking about love at all.
Right.
So, in pop culture, love definitely is very shaded depending on where it falls in a song or in a poem or in a book.
So what I'm hearing is I'm too precise about language.
No, I mean, I love your precision around language.
No, but I mean it's that.
But in the culture is nowhere near that precise in language around love.
Right.
Love is incredibly multi-layered and can be incredibly shallow or really, really, really fantastically deep. It just depends on who's saying it to whom, under what circumstances, and what the context is.
So when I told Benton today, and I'm sorry, I realized it was like 6:30 in the morning, and no, he does not live here, but he has learned to shut off his phone until he's ready to get up, because I do text him. But I wanted to talk about this whole notion of love, partly because you wrote a song that is called Love is a Dirty Word, and you're talking about love. The kind of love that sticks through hard times. What I always think of when I hear that song is bedpans.
Love's at the bedside.
That just daily caretaking devotion, even when you don't want to do it. I mean, that doesn't mean that you're self-sacrificing, you don't take care of yourself. But, there are times when you're children are like this.
Yeah.
When you're called upon to love somebody, and really the last thing you want to do is take care of them at that moment. For me, that song, when I hear that song, I think about that sense of, I have thrown myself in with you, and therefore, here we go.
Yeah. That song really deals with the stickiness and messiness of love. And in those kinds of situations, I view love not only as a heart thing, but also as a decision.
That's it.
Love is a decision.
Love is a decision.
In those moments when you're dealing with a dying parent or a vomiting child, or you feel compelled by something way bigger than you to show kindness to someone, if you are willing to put your own well-being at risk for the sake of someone else's, that's the kind of love that song talks about. So it's not ooey gooey love at all.
No.
It's very much about love that decides to stay in it for the long haul, period. Those decisions are a different type of love. As someone that believes that love of that kind comes from the divine, then then you really do at that moment. It's sort of beyond you. It's more than you have. So that's not about how you feel. That's not a casual passing thing. It is a committed, decisive, tenacious love.
I think it can be short term. I'm thinking now about nurses, doctors, all of those people, rescue, first
wow.
responders, everything,
Yeah.
who at their very best are both professional and contained, but also there's that level of your good is more important than my own right now.
Yeah.
And it may be for 3 minutes.
Yeah. Well, and at that point, I kind of feel like, I hate to use this language, but I don't know a better word. It's almost like a calling at that point. Because, for instance, when someone that I love's father was passing and I was in hospice and I saw the commitment of the people there, that was incredibly powerful for me. Mm-hmm. Incredibly powerful. Like, I had never seen that. Because that takes a tremendous amount of stamina, strength, decisiveness, courage, peace, and love. Because if it was me, I would take every one of those individuals home with me in my thoughts, in my dreams, in my prayers every night. And I would carry that around. And maybe they do. But there's something so compelling about the work they do, that they show up every day and they do it again, knowing that someone may die on their clock,
Right.
knowing that they may have to comfort another grieving spouse or
Right.
parent or child. And that's big.
So going back to the language thing, if you're talking about, we'll use a hospice person for the moment. If you're talking about that kind of love and commitment, what you're talking about is somebody whose emphasis is always on the you.
Mm-hmm.
Which is very different than a martyr doing the same thing, where the emphasis is on I.
Yeah.
And I think that part of the ability to take care of yourself, to withstand the fatigue, all of that, has to do with both capacity, and I think we can train ourselves to have more capacity for love, but also it actually is about the other person. That doesn't mean that I destroy myself for the other person. That's not good either.
Right.
That's not love.
Right.
But when the emphasis in the I love you or in the love you is on the you, that's when it shifts character.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if when people, not you, but everybody else, when people distinguish between love you and I love you, if the I doesn't feel so risky and so scary that you go to the other. But I wonder if one needs to internally, not necessarily verbally, but internally say the I love you enough that the I eventually goes away and it becomes you. And sometimes the I comes back, right? It's like you can love somebody in the sense of willing the good of somebody being willing to do something for their good, who is not good for you, from whom you should separate yourself. I had a partner who was abusive, and for a brief period of time, I wanted that person to die a horrible death. But after that, it was really, no, that's not what I want. What I want is to not be connected with this person anymore.
Right.
But I want the person to find happiness. I want the person to find health. I want all of that. And on the days that I don't, I am going to make myself pray for the person, think about the person,
Right.
imagine that person's good, all of that stuff. At some point, the I goes away. The I just goes away.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And I think that's what Paul's getting at, that when we love in that way, we just are patient, we are kind, we are not worried about ourselves. And the fact is in an hour of loving somebody, we go in and out of that kind of love all the time. We just do.
Yeah.
I think most of us have to learn to love more. This is why Scripture tells us that love conquers fear. is because if you're actually thinking about the other person, fear softens. Most of us have to learn to trust enough that we're going to be okay, God's going to take care of us, other people are somehow we're going to be okay in order to learn to love.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Because you can't really love in the moment until you are able to let go of your own risk-taking.
Right.
There's a book by Martin Buber called I and Thou,
Mm-hmm.
and he's talking essentially about the subject-object relationship and talking about thou being, God and whatever the greater you is. But it's very much about that, what that sense is. And I think a lot of us have never, ever, ever been taught how to love. We're just figuring it out.
I think that's true. I think that's really true. We haven't necessarily seen love modeled in a way that we can grasp.
Or we simply don't recognize it because we
don't.
have this really twisted view of what love looks like.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I was thinking also today about, at least when I was younger, I won't speak for myself in a moment. There's the cliche, Pretty in Pink,
What
right?
a great movie, yeah.
Is the cliche distinction between the passion and the
Yeah.
person who actually loves you and cares about you, right?
Yeah.
A lot of us have trouble with separating the excitement, the thrill, all of that as love versus the boring love is in the trenches, love is digging ditches. I'm quoting his song right now. The boringness of love.
Yeah.
We want the excitement, right?
Yeah.
And so we'll imagine ourselves loving someone who gives us excitement and who reaffirms our sense of who we are as lovers.
Yep.
Rather than the one who's just like, who will do.
Consistently there. Mm-hmm.
My dog knows I love him because I always feed him. Always.
Mm-hmm.
I do not go without feeding my dog. Now, I don't always like my dog, and as we know, I prefer cats. Shh.
Don't tell Jack.
Don't tell Jack. But that's what you do. That's what you do.
Yeah, of course.
Love, love, love is a dirty word. Love, love, love is a dirty word. Love, love, when all the edges blur, keep on believing. Love, love, love is the risk you take. Love, love, the choice you're afraid to make. Can you give it till it hurts? Yeah, love is a dirty word. Love, love, love is a dirty word.
If you have not purchased Benton's song, Love is a Dirty Word, it is on which CD?
It is on the Turn Off the Moon CD. Mm-hmm. You can listen to it currently at soundcloud.com.
Mm-hmm.
You can download the song and or both the album at iTunes and other places. It's available lots and lots of places.
Google and Amazon
Yeah.
and all those. Or you can go to his website, which is www.bentonstokesmusic.com, and you can order a hard copy CD. And I'll tell you something, it will be me mailing it to you. Mm-hmm. I will put in a love note for you.
Aww.
Just tell me who you are.
How sweet is
He'll get the
that?
money and I'll send a nice note.
How sweet is that?
See? It's a great song. So please, please, if you haven't heard it, go listen to it. Love is a dirty word. It's everywhere. Love is and dirty words are, but the song also, can be found in many places, including on his website. And actually, maybe we'll post a link to it. Look in the comments or for this episode, we'll post a link.
Okay. And it's also in the bumper music.
So if you love us in either the chocolate cake way or the
We don't really care.
We don't care much. But if you love us, you can show this in so many ways. You can recommend this podcast to other people, which would be wonderful.
Please do that.
You can subscribe to the podcast, which frankly actually helps us out because if you subscribe, our recognition goes up.
Yep.
Whether you listen to us or not.
Well, it makes us easier
really
to
helpful.
find for other people.
That's right. You can support us on Patreon, patreon.com/cocktail theology. You can write us sweet notes. You can give us suggestions. We love
that.
We appreciate suggestions. We want ideas about what you want to hear about. I won't talk about golf. Is that okay?
I sincerely pray that we never, ever have to talk about golf.
But really almost anything else. So we love you. He loves you, but we
He loves you without the pronoun.
either one really. It's just kind of
It
love.
doesn't really matter.
But what I mean by that when I say that is we really want your good.
Yes, we do.
And if there are things that we can talk about or ways that we can pray for you or courses we can offer through School for Seekers, if there's anything that would be useful to you or your people, please tell us. You can email us at info, at schoolforseekers.com. We're on Facebook. Well, I'm on Facebook. School for Seekers is on Facebook. He's theoretically on Facebook, but, let's
I'm
be
there.
real.
I just don't check it very much.
No.
If you want to reach me, go to Instagram. That's the best place to find me. Benton Stokes at Instagram. You can also tweet me at Twitter.
Yeah, direct message on Twitter is good.
Direct message on Twitter is great.
Basically, any of those are good. What has happened is you can email me and say, hey, would you tell Benton? And I'll say, sure.
Uh-huh.
And that all works.
That works too.
So, but we do love you, and we care about who you are becoming and how you are doing.
Yep.
So please let us know how we can help. I think that's it.
I think that's it. Thanks for joining us again this week. We love sharing our episodes with you every Thursday. Tell your friends. Tell
4
your
a.m.
friends.
They tend to come out at 4 a.m.
Please.
But I may be
spread
the
word.
only person who actually hears them at 4 a.m.
If you're up at 4 a.m., find us.
Call me! Because I'm lonely.
I'm up. Call me.
I'm up. Call me. Please don't call me.
No, don't.
Because it's
Don't
the phone.
call her.
And I hate the phone.
Please don't call her.
But you can message me. Anyway.
Don't
all
call
right.
me either. No,
Thank
especially
you.
not at 4 a.m.
Yeah, right. Yeah, well, because he won't have his phone on. Trust me. Good night, everybody. Good night,
Bye.
Gracie.